Welcome to my YouTube channel where we demonstrate and discuss everything related to theatrical and entertainment production crafts. Please subscribe to get the latest updates, posts, and demonstrations. While I will focus primarily on safety in the shops and comprehensive training and operating procedures for tools and machinery, I'll also demonstrate and discuss practical applications like flat and platform construction, scene painting, and more. If you'd like to see something specific, please let me know in the comments. Once again, please subscribe and power up the alert bell to get the most up-to-date notifications about new content. This structure is also stable in any orientation, and that's super important because the flats aren't always going to be put in this vertical position. They could be put at some weird angle. They could be put this way as a header. And as a header, that's a very strong structure. And you'll notice this does have a little bit of twist, but look at the sine wave of this twist. It's a very small sine wave, and it wants to come back to stability very quickly. So it's very strong and very stable, and it's very stable in any orientation. This flat, it's got a lot more wobble, and that twist, you're going to be fighting with it whenever you're trying to assemble two flats together. You're not going to want to come true. You're going to have to fight it. And again, if the 1x3 studs on either side start to do any little twist over the life of them, they don't have any additional structure to hold them into place and prevent them from doing that. So you can see it's got a lot more wobble, and when I turn it over, it's going to be even worse. So you can see the sine wave of this is, the amplitude is so much greater, and it takes longer for it to come back to stability. That's because you don't have one extra stud running down the middle. Does it need to be an extra stud? Could it be blocking running up the middle? Yeah, it could be that. I just like to build them that way because I'm modeling stud framing structure. But I could come back and I could restabilize this by simply adding another block in the middle between each of them, and that would add a lot more stability. But there are some imperfections on this that are already apparent because there's a gap here, there's a gap back here. It wasn't very well built. It was hastily thrown together. So here's what a 16-foot flat looks like with the appropriate amount of framing. And you'll notice how much more stable this structure is than by leaving that center stud out. It really doesn't have much twist at all. And it's really, really strong and stable, and all because of that center stud. And you'll notice there's no doubling up of any boards at the seam. Bottom piece of Luan here, 4x8, top piece of Luan up there, 4x8, and one single piece running across, and it's centered on the seam, so both pieces of the Luan attach. And it is 1/8-inch Luan. So that means this one is probably 10 to 15 pounds lighter than if I put 1/4-inch Luan on. And this is the superior structure and my preferred way of framing all flats that I build. Look, it doesn't want to wobble. I'm trying to wobble it. I'm trying to get it to wobble. I'm trying to put this here, and it doesn't want to wobble because it's got that additional honeycomb structure. Inferior structure, this board was laid flat, not necessary. That's also a weaker point at the seam, and you can see it's got a lot more. Look at all that twist. That means that's a whole lot more stuff you have to cross brace and stabilize and use more jacks, and just build your flats the right way, and then you don't have to deal with additional stabilization later. This is just a crap way of building your flats. Look at that, it just wants to wobble. The other one did not want to wobble at all. The grid structure is not true cross bracing, but it does start to simulate it without actually introducing diagonal cross bracing or K bracing. The tighter your grid becomes, the more stable your structure becomes. It prevents a lot of twisting. As you can see, this structure doesn't want to twist at all. It is pretty stable, and it's stable before the Luan goes on. That's the important thing. Because it's already stable when the Luan goes on, the Luan just solidifies that stability. It's not continually putting pressure on the glue and the staples of the Luan to maintain its stability. We're basically creating a grid like a stressed skin structure, but we're not skinning it on both sides and creating that stressed skin structure. But we're increasing the stability of that to this in a quick and repeatable pattern that is cost effective and weight reducing. With this structure, I have more options on my placement of my stage jacks. I can now place my stage jacks in the middle of the flat and not just at the ends of the flats. You do want to place your stage jacks on a vertical stud wherever possible. That's stronger. If I'm not placing it on the stud, I've only got this point and this point and that point to attach. And while it will stabilize things, it isn't your strongest attachment point. You will be better and have more options if you can hit some of these horizontals and hit this vertical. This will be a stronger, stable position. Now, you don't always have that choice when you're adding your stage jacks or when you're putting your flats together. They don't always tee off where the vertical studs are, so you can always add more blocking to support those. But if you've already got a stud in the middle, you reduce the need to add a lot of extra blocking a lot of the time. When I put my stage jack on my vertical stud, I am transferring that stability through that stud to the facing all the way through. When I put my stage jack here, I am only securing that stability at the point where these horizontal blocks hit, and I'm doing nothing to actually stabilize the front face of my flat, which is what our goal is. Our goal is the finished look and performance of the front facing side. By having the ability to add stage jacks in more places in the centers of flats, I'm getting better stability and performance on the front. The reason theater often went to making hard flats as opposed to soft flats with muslin covering is because one of the conventions of that traditional wing and drop style scenery is that someone would close a door and the muslin would ripple and wave, and it would sort of break the verisimilitude of the environment. This was a lean towards a more realistic set or more realistic scenic environment and making houses and buildings and structures be more believable. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time with more technical theater content.